All right, there we go. Good evening, with 6:55 as I get started. So we are continuing on the video from yesterday um, on Asherah poles, the origins of electricity. We're going to start off on the Baphomet, Calumet, the Hermaphrodites, double sex Native American, dual spirit, Minotaurs, Minnie Mouse, Mickey Mouse, witches, and petrified bodies, and trees, and astral projection, and whatnot. All right, let me put on my do not disturb. Okay. So first we're going to start off with the etymology of the word electricity. So the term electricity comes from the Greek word electron. The definition of the word electron is amber, which is a yellow or reddish brown stone used in jewelry. When amber was rubbed, it developed an electrical charge that allowed light objects like straw and feathers to be lifted. This is the second etymology from Wikipedia. The word electricity derives from Neo-Latin and ultimately Greek. It first appears in English in Francis Bacon's writings. Here we go with the Bacon. Depending on context, the word may refer to electric charge, electric power, or electric energy. Historical drift, pre-English origins. The Neo-Latin adjective electricus, originally meaning of amber, was first used to refer to amber's attractive properties by William Gilbert in his 1600 text De Magnete. The term came from the classical Latin electrum, or amber, from the Greek electron, meaning amber. The origin of the Greek word is unknown, but there is speculation that it might have come from a Phoenician word, elekron, meaning shining light. One second. Okay, entry into English. The word electric was first used by Francis Bacon to describe materials like amber that attracted other objects. The first usage of the word electricity is ascribed to Sir Thomas Browne in his 1646 work, Pseudodoxia Epidemica. Again, the concretion of ice will not endure a dry attrition without liquation. For if it be rubbed along with a cloth, it melteth, but crystal will calify unto electricity, that is, a power to attract straws and light bodies and convert the needle freely placed. That's from the Pseudodoxia Epidemica, first edition, page 51. In this context, an electric or electric body was a non-conductor or an object capable of attracting light bodies, like bits of paper, when excited by friction. A piece of amber is an electric, while a piece of iron is not. Electricity then was simply the property of behaving like an electric, in the same way that elasticity is the property of behaving like an elastic. Electric continued to be used as a noun until at least 1913 and is still used in this sense in the word dielectric. It was not until later that the definition shifted to refer to the cause of the attraction instead of the property of being attractive. Charge, in the electrical sense, was first used in 1748. Quantity of electricity. The term quantity of electricity was once common in scientific publications. It appears frequently in the writings of Franklin, Faraday, Maxwell, Millikan, and J.J. Thomson, and was even occasionally used by Einstein. However, over the last 100 years, the term electricity has been used by electric utility companies and the general public in a non-scientific way. Today, the vast majority of publications no longer refer to electricity as meaning electric charge. Instead, they speak of electricity as electromagnetic energy. The definition has drifted even further, and many authors now use the word electricity to mean electric current or amperes, energy flow or watts, and electrical potential or volts, or electric force. Others refer to any electrical phenomena as kinds of electricity. These multiple definitions are probably the reason that quantity of electricity has fallen into disfavor among scientists. Physics textbooks no longer define quantity of electricity or flow of electricity. Quantity of electricity is now regarded as an archaic usage, and it has slowly been replaced by the terms charge of electricity, then quantity of electric charge, and today simply charge. Since the term electricity has increasingly become corrupted by contradictions and unscientific definitions, today's experts instead use the term charge to remove any possible confusion. Now, what is, let's see, first electricity. First, I want to look up amber in the Bible. Okay, so in Ezekiel's vision, the description of the divine being enveloped in an amber-like luminescence signifies God's glory. The radiant brilliance and the fiery attributes associated with amber illustrated the indescribable majesty of God in humanly comprehensible terms. This is the symbolism of amber in biblical texts. So in the annals of biblical history, symbols have been used extensively to elucidate meanings, communicate divine messages, and bridge gaps between our mortal realm and the divine world. These symbols, ranging from objects, colors, animals, to natural elements, form an integral part of the sacred text. One such symbol that holds significant value, particularly in the context of color symbolism, is amber. While many might dismiss it just as a simple color or a form of petrified tree resin, didn't I say 10:44 on the clock, 7:04 on the clock? Okay. Petrified tree resin. The biblical connotations associated with amber color are profound and multidimensional. In the biblical context, amber, a remarkable blend of the golden sun rays, earthy tone, and fiery brilliance, has always been known for its majestic allure. It is mentioned explicitly in the book of Ezekiel, one of the major prophetic books in the Old Testament. Ezekiel 1, chapter 1, verse 4. The prophet describes a vision he received from the Lord. I looked and I saw a windstorm coming out of the north, an immense cloud with flashing lightning and surrounded by brilliant light. The center of the fire looked like glowing metal, and in the fire was what looked like 4 living creatures. In appearance, their form was human. And later in Ezekiel 1 and 27, he further elaborates about the appearance. I saw that from what appeared to be his waist up, he looked like glowing metal, as if full of fire, and that from there down he looked like fire, and brilliant light surrounded him. Like the appearance of a rainbow in the clouds on a rainy day, so was the radiance around him. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. Biblical scholars have interpreted this glowing metal as amber, given the contextual description of fiery brilliance. So, in essence, the biblical meaning of amber is intricately tied to divine glory, power, and presence. Historically, the significance of amber stretches far and wide. Amber, a fossilized tree resin, was a precious commodity in ancient civilizations such as the Greeks, Romans, and the Mycenaean. Revered for its ethereal beauty, amber was frequently used in jewelry and decorative items. In the realm of Christianity, the early church fathers adopted the use of amber to illustrate certain theological truths. Saint Jerome, for instance, compared the fossilized resin with the wisdom of the scriptures using this analogy. As amber attracts straw, so too should the words of God draw the human soul. Mind you, again, I'm in the town of Pullman. Okay? Think about those 5G towers. 7:07 on the clock. Ancient cultures also attributed mystical powers to amber, mainly protection and healing. Baltic amber especially was famous for its supposed therapeutic qualities, and many people wore it as a talisman or protective charm. In Hebrew tradition, amber was one of the stones representing the 12 tribes of Israel on Aaron's breastplate. From a theological perspective, the biblical meaning of amber weaves its knowledge into several interpretations regarding divine presence and glory, which demand intricate dissection. The shimmering amber, therefore, symbolizes the magnificent glory of God that consumes everything in its radiance. 7:08 on the clock, 88%. Amber as a symbol of purity. Amber's pure, clear brilliance can also be seen as a reflection of God's purity, similar to how amber is formed over centuries through the process of natural pressure and heat. Yeah, just use the tissue. Sorry about that. Okay, so similar to how amber is formed over centuries through the process of natural pressure and heat, purifying it from any dirt or impurities, God's children are refined through trials and tribulations, purifying their faith and making them worthy of the kingdom of God. Amber as a symbol of fire. Fire in the Bible often denotes purification, judgment, and the presence of God. The fiery color of amber can be equated with the consuming fire of God's holiness that purifies and transforms. For example, the prophet Malachi talks about the refiner's fire in Malachi chapter 3, verse 2, reminiscent of amber's burning radiance that purges all impurities, symbolizing the transformation process believers go through as they draw closer to God. To conclude, the symbolism of amber in biblical texts is multifaceted. More than a mere color of precious resin, its symbolic richness lies in its interpretation as the manifestation of divine glory, a symbol of purity, and an illustration of God's consuming fire. Although its mention in the Bible might be brief, The implications of this unquestionably attractive symbol have been profound in biblical studies, attracting theologians and scholars alike to delve deeper into its luminous mysteries. As we revisit and interpret these symbols, we gain a greater understanding of the profound wisdom embedded in these sacred texts, helping us to connect with the divine on a more personal and meaningful level. 7:11 on the clock for the imposters. Okay, so now Amber and Tesla. Okay, so Elon Musk was with someone named Amber. Okay, Amber Heard. Amber Heard was also an Aquaman. Anywho, Tesla CEO. Okay, so Elon Musk is the CEO for Tesla. Okay, all right, didn't know that. I be knowing stuff, but I don't be knowing stuff, but I be knowing stuff. Amber Heard was despised by Elon Musk's family because she was toxic. Okay, and Elon, let me show you how he plays into this thingamabob. Elon. So the Edomites in the Bible, also called Edom, descendants of Esau, Genesis 36. Now these are the generations of Esau, who is Edom. Esau took his wives of the daughters of Canaan, Ada, the daughter of Elon, the Hittite, and Aholibamah, the daughter of Anna, the daughter of Zibeon, the Hivite, the Hivites, and Bashemath, Ishmael's daughter, sister of Nebajoth, and Ada bare to Esau Eliphaz, Eli, Phaz, and Bashemath bare Reuel. Okay, so Elon, the Hittite, let's see who the 714 Hittites. So the Hittites were an Anatolian Indo-European people who formed one of the first major civilizations of Bronze Age West Asia, possibly originating from beyond the Black Sea. They settled in modern-day Turkey in the early second millennium BC. The Hittites formed a series of polities in north-central Anatolia, including the kingdom of Kusara before 1750 BC, the Kanesh or Nisha kingdom, 1750 through 1650 BC, and an empire centered on Hattusa, known in modern times as the Hittite Empire. It reached its peak during the mid-14th century BC under Sepiluliuma I, when it encompassed most of Anatolia and parts of the northern Levant and upper Mesopotamia. So the biblical Hittites also spelled Hethites or Heathenites, were a group of people mentioned in the Bible under the names Benyht, children of Heth, who was the son of Canaan, and Hty, a native of Heth. They are described several times as living in or near Canaan between the time of Abraham, estimated to be between 2000 BC and 1500 BC, and the time of Ezra, after the return of the Jews from the Babylonian exile around 450 BC. Their ancestor was Heth. In the late 19th century, the biblical Hittites were identified with a newly discovered Indo-European speaking empire of Anatolia, a major regional power through most of the second millennium BC, who therefore came to be known as the Hittites. This nomenclature is used today as a matter of convention, regardless of debates about possible identities between the Anatolian Hittite Empire and the biblical Hittites. Now, where are Hittites in North America? So it says that this person says the Hittites were mostly obliterated by the powerful Assyrians. Their Indo-European language is extinct now. Some Hittites may have survived in small groups in the areas of modern populations in Syria, Turkey, Lebanon, Greece, and Armenia. Kim K. Some may have been absorbed by the Assyrians. They are not a distinct people today, but DNA can be traced to the populations mentioned. And who are the Hivites? Hivites. The Hivites were one group of descendants of Canaan, son of Ham, according to the Table of Nations in Genesis 10. Okay, all right. So, Hammy ham. Come and get your pork. Come and get that pork. All right. So, exposing the children of Ham. Again, electricity, Amber. What is an Amber Alert? An Amber Alert, or a child abduction emergency alert, is a message distributed by a child abduction alert system to ask the public for help in finding abducted children. The system originated in the United States of America. The Amber Alert was created in reference to Amber Renee Hagerman, who was abducted and later found murdered in 1996. Alternative regional alert names were once used. In Georgia, Levi's Call, in memory of Levi Frady. In Hawaii, Male or Mally Amber Alert, in memory of Male Gilbert. In Arkansas, Morgan Nick Amber Alert, in memory of Morgan Nick. In Utah, it is called Rachel Alert, in memory of Rachel Runyon. And Monkey's Law in Idaho, in memory of Michael Joseph Vaughn. In the United States, the alerts are distributed via commercial and public radio stations, internet radio, satellite radio, television stations, text messages, and cable TV by the Emergency Alert System and NOAA radio, weather radio, where they are termed Amber Alerts. The alerts are also issued via email, electronic traffic condition signals, signs, commercial electronic billboards, or through wireless device SMS text messages. Amber Alert has also teamed up with Google and Facebook to relay information regarding an Amber Alert to an ever-growing demographic. Amber Alerts are automatically displayed if citizens search or use map features on Google, Yahoo, Bing, and other search engines. So again, this Amber Alert goes back to the electricity being created through amber or petrified tree resin. So let's go into this petrified tree resin. Which petrified tree produces amber? So amber is fossilized tree resin that has been appreciated for its color and natural beauty since Neolithic times. Now we're getting back to The Land Before Time and Jurassic Park. Remember the little white guy that had the little ball on his cane that had the mosquito in it. Okay. So much valued from antiquity to the present as a gemstone, amber is made into a variety of decorative objects. Amber is used in jewelry and has been used as a healing agent in folk medicine. There are 5 classes of amber, defined on the basis of their chemical constituents. Because it originates as a soft, sticky tree resin, amber sometimes contains animal and plant material as inclusions. Amber occurring in coal seams is also called risenite, and the term ambrite is applied to that found specifically within New Zealand coal seams. The English word amber derives from Arabic anbar, ultimately from Middle Persia's ambar. So we have A-N-B-A-R and then A-M-B-A-R, via the Middle Latin ambar and Middle French ambre. The word referred to what is now known as ambergris, gris, or gray amber, a solid waxy substance derived from the sperm whale. The word, in its sense of ambergris, was adopted in Middle English in the 14th century. In the Romance languages, the sense of the word was extended to Baltic amber, fossil resin, from as early as the late 13th century. At first called white or yellow amber, ambre jaune, this meaning was adopted in English by the early 15th century. As the use of ambergris waned, this became the main sense of the word. The two substances, yellow amber and gray amber, conceivably became associated or confused because they both were found washed up on beaches. Ambergris is less dense than water and floats, whereas amber is too dense to float, though less dense than stone. The classical names for amber, Latin electrum and ancient Greek electron, are connected to a term, elector, meaning beaming sun. According to myth, when Phaeton, son of Helios, the sun, was killed, his mourning sisters became poplar trees, and their tears became electron, amber. The word electron gave rise to the words electric, electricity, and their relatives because of amber's ability to bear a change of static electricity. Pliny the Elder says that the German name of amber was Glacium, for which reason the Romans, when Germanicus commanded the fleet in those parts, gave to one of these islands the name of Glysaria, which by the barbarians was known as Austrabia. This is confirmed by the recorded Old High German word glass, G-L-A-S, and by the Old English word glare for amber, compared to glass. In Middle Low German, amber was known as Bern, B-E-R-N-E, barn, B-A-R-N, Bornstein, B-O-R-N-S-T-E-N, with etymological roots related to burn and stone, firestone. I took a picture of that earlier. The Low German term became dominant also in High German by the 18th century, thus modern German Bernstein, besides Dutch Barnstein. Here we go with that. What is it? The butterfly effect or the Mandela effect? Whatever it's called. In the Baltic languages, the Lithuanian term for amber is dzintaras, and the Latvian zintars. So jinn, again, are the fiery demons. These words and the Slavic jantar and Hungarian gayanta for resin are thought to originate from Phoenician janitar or sea resin. Sounds like janitor. I'm getting groundskeeper Willie. History. Close the door, Aiden. Close the door. Close the door. Theophrastus discussed amber in the 4th century BCE, as did Pythias of circa 330 BCE, whose work on the ocean is lost but was referenced by Pliny, according to whose natural history. Pythias says that the Gutones, a people of Germany, inhabit the shores of an estuary of the ocean called Mintanomon, their territory extending a distance of 6,000 stadia. That at one day sail from this territory is the Isle of Abylos, upon the shores of which amber is thrown up by the waves in spring, it being an excretion of the sea in a concrete form, as also that the inhabitants use this amber by way of fuel and sell it to their neighbors, the Teutones. Now, I want you guys to remember that America is also referenced as an island, okay? Turtle Island. Now, earlier, Pliny says that Pythias refers to a large island 3 days' sail from the Scythian coast and called Balsia, by Xenophon of Lampsacus, author of fanciful travel book in Greek, as Basilia, a name generally equated with Abylos. Given the presence of amber, the island could have been Heligoland, Zealand, the shores of Danks Bay, Felicia, Dansk, okay, the Sambia Peninsula, or the Curonian Lagoon, which were historically the richest sources of amber in Northern Europe. It is assumed that there were well-established trade routes for amber connecting the Baltic with the Mediterranean, known as the Amber Road. Pliny states explicitly that the Germans exported amber to Pannonia, from where the Veneti distributed onwards. The ancient Italic peoples of southern Italy used to work amber. The National Archaeological Museum of Sirte, Museo Archeologico Nacional della Sirte at Policoro in the province of Matera, or Basilicata, displays important surviving examples. It has been suggested that amber used in antiquity, as at Mycenae and in the prehistory of the Mediterranean, came from deposits in Sicily. Kept seeing Assisi. Pliny also cites the opinion of Nicias, circa 470 to 413 BC, according to whom amber is a liquid produced by the rays of the sun, and that these rays, at the moment of the sun's setting, striking with the greatest force upon the surface of the soil, leave upon it an unctuous sweat, which is carried off by the tides of the ocean and thrown up on the shores of Germany. Besides the fanciful explanations according to which amber is produced by the sun, quote unquote, Pliny cites opinions that are well aware of its origin in tree resin, citing the native Latin name of succinum or succinum from sucus or succus or juice. In Book 37 of Natural History, Pliny wrote, amber is produced from a marrow discharged by trees belonging to the pine genus, like gum from the cherry and resin from the ordinary pine. It is a liquid at first, which issues forth in considerable quantities and is gradually hardened. Our forefathers, too, were of opinion that it is the juice of a tree, and for this reason gave it the name of succinum or succinum, and one great proof that it is the produce of a tree of the pine genus. So here we go with the pineal gland, okay, is the fact that it emits a pine-like smell when rubbed and that it burns when ignited with the odor and appearance of torch pine wood. Okay, so with the marrow, if you've ever seen the movie The 100, they were putting people in cages and they were pulling out their bone marrow while they were still alive. We'll go into that after this. So Pliny also states that amber is also found in Egypt and India, and we know that America is Egypt. He even refers to the electrostatic properties of amber by saying that in Syria, the women make the whorls of their spindles of this substance and give it the name of harpax, from to drag, from the circumstance that it attracts leaves towards it, chaff, and the light fringe of tissues. Now we're at the wheat and the chaff. So we're saying that the light of God draws in the chaff to be burned. Get it? Hello? Do you hear me now? Okay. The Romans traded for amber from the shores of the southern Baltic at least as far back as the time of Nero. Amber has a long history of use in China, with the first written record from 200 BCE. Early in the 19th century, the first reports of amber found in North America came from discoveries in New Jersey along Crosswicks Creek, near Trenton, at Camden, and near Woodbury. Okay. Now, bone marrow. Bone marrow is a spongy, soft tissue that resembles a jelly or jam that would spread on toast, that you would spread on toast. It comes in two colors, red and yellow. Bone marrow fills the cavities of your bones and holds cells that create red and white blood cells and platelets, which make whole blood. Now, bone marrow and HIV. So activation of this latent reservoir in the bone marrow could result in an increase in HIV load in the bone marrow, which may infect surrounding cells. Abnormalities of bone marrow, or BM, are commonly associated with abnormal peripheral blood findings in HIV-infected patients. So HIV can also confuse the immune system into attacking platelets in the circulation and removing them using the spleen. Infect the cells in the bone marrow that produce the platelets. Okay, let's see. TV show 100 and bone marrow. So there was a 48-hour delay between receiving the bone marrow and becoming immune to radiation. Harper McIntyre and Monty Green were the first victims of the bone marrow harvest. However, Dante Wallace put a temporary stop to it, saving their lives. Now, how do doctors harvest bone marrow? So, what is bone marrow? It is the flexible tissue found in the center of your bones. New blood cells form in your blood marrow every day. Some blood cells remain in the marrow, and some are released into the bloodstream to replace worn out cells. Bone marrow makes stem cells. I took a picture of the school Corliss earlier, STEM high school, okay? Corliss, or missing a core, or soulless, okay? Now, what it say? Bone marrow makes stem cells, red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Red blood cells carry oxygen to all parts of the body. White blood cells help fight infections. Platelets help blood clot and prevent bleeding. What is a bone marrow harvest? A bone marrow harvest is the removal and collection of bone marrow. The collected marrow is filtered and then is either given to the patient or stored until it is reinfused during a bone marrow transplant, or a BMT. Bone marrow is collected by inserting a needle through the skin into the inner cavity of the bone. The back of the hip bone, or the iliac crest, is commonly used. However, the front of the sternum breastbone may also be used. Before the bone marrow harvest, do not take aspirin or any products containing aspirin for 7 days before the harvest procedure. We will do a complete medical history, a physical exam, and take blood for testing. Blood tests include screening for hepatitis and HIV. Tell your healthcare professional if you are breastfeeding, pregnant, or attempting to conceive a child. You will also have a chest x-ray and an electrocardiogram, or ECG. You will visit with an anesthesiologist to discuss the type of anesthesia you will receive during the procedure. You may be asked to donate blood for a transfusion, autologous blood transfusion that you will receive after the procedure. Do not eat or drink anything after the time instructed by your anesthesiologist. The time to stop eating and drinking will depend on your procedure time. Gosh, bathing instructions. Studies show that repeated use of antiseptic or antimicrobial skin solution reduces bacterial counts on the skin. Now they want to make all kind of noise next door, gang, stop the police. Not only immediately after the shower, but also for a number of hours afterward. To help reduce the risk of surgical site infection, we strongly recommend 2 days of treatment before your bone marrow harvest. Do not use the antiseptic soap solution if you are allergic to CHG or chlorhexidine gluconate. If you have any type of skin reaction such as burning, itching, redness, or rash, stop using the solution. If the symptoms do not go away, call Roswell Park. Roswell, where the aliens are? Okay. All right. 7:40 on the clock. Big 7-4 to the world blow. Y'all already know how it go. GD's in the dough. So who is most likely to have a bone marrow transplant? Oh, the Shriners children. What is a bone marrow transplant? Bone marrow transplant is a special therapy for patients with certain cancers or other diseases. A bone marrow transplant involves taking cells that are normally found in the bone marrow or stem cells, filtering those cells, and giving them back either to the donor, the patient, or to another person. The goal of BMT is to transfuse healthy bone marrow cells into a person after his or her own unhealthy bone marrow has been treated to kill the abnormal cells. Bone marrow transplant has been used successfully to treat diseases such as leukemias, lymphomas, aplastic anemia, immune deficiency disorders, and some solid tumor cancers since 1968. Again, bone marrow is the soft, spongy tissue found inside bones. It is where most of the body's blood cells develop and are stored. The blood cells that make other blood cells are called stem cells. The most primitive of the stem cell is called the pluripotent stem cell. This is different than other blood cells with regard to the following properties. Renewal, it is able to reproduce another cell identical to itself. Differentiation, it is able to generate one or more subsets of more mature cells. It is the stem cells that are needed in bone marrow transplant. Why is a bone marrow transplant needed? The goal of a bone marrow transplant is to cure many diseases and types of cancer. When the doses of chemotherapy or radiation needed to cure a cancer are so high that a person's bone marrow stem cells will be permanently damaged or destroyed by the treatment, a bone marrow transplant may be needed. Bone marrow transplants may also be needed if the bone marrow has been destroyed by a disease. A bone marrow transplant can be used to replace diseased, non-functioning bone marrow with healthy, functioning bone marrow for conditions such as leukemia, aplastic anemia, and sickle cell anemia. Miss Ruthie. Regenerate a new immune system that will fight existing or residual leukemia or other cancers not killed by the chemotherapy or radiation used in the transplant. Replace the bone marrow and restore its normal function after high doses of chemotherapy and or radiation are given to treat a malignancy. This process is often called rescue. Replace bone marrow with genetically healthy, functioning bone marrow to prevent more damage from a genetic disease process such as Hurler's syndrome and adrenoleukodystrophy. The risks and benefits must be weighed in a thorough discussion with your healthcare provider and specialist in bone marrow transplants before the procedure. What are some diseases that may benefit from bone marrow transplant? The following diseases are the ones that most commonly benefit from bone marrow transplant: leukemias, severe aplastic anemia, lymphomas, multiple myeloma, immune deficiency disorders, some solid tumor cancers in rare circumstances. However, patients experience diseases differently, and bone marrow transplant may not be right for everyone who suffers from these diseases. Okay, so how does God feel about blood transfusions? Acts 15:28-29 says it does not prohibit blood transfusions. The passage in Acts 15:28-29 was a letter written to Gentile Christians in Antioch, Syria, and Cilicia, which instructed them to abstain from food that was strangled or sacrificed to idols, drinking blood, eating meat with blood in it, and sexual immorality. So, why do Christians not believe in blood transfusions? They are in effect expressing faith that not only the shed blood of Jesus Christ can truly redeem them and save their life, blood must not be eaten or transfused, even in the case of a medical emergency. Blood leaving the body of a human or animal must be disposed of. Yet we have, what do you call them, plasma centers everywhere. All right, now back to Mr. Elon. Oh my God. Oh God. Judgment Day. It's a heavy load. Okay. So, Edomites and electricity. So it says the Edomites, who were descendants of Esau, the twin brother of Jacob, he had a message for the house of Jacob and for us today. The Edomites were guilty of the sin of pride, and we are currently in Pride Month. The pride of your heart has deceived you. Pride is always deceptive. Come on. Edom electricity provider, Just Energy. Ruined copper works, evidence that bolsters a doubted biblical tale. New evidence suggests that the tribes of Edom may have come together in a cohesive society as early as the 12th century. You Edomites will pay for the concept of energy. Iniquities of your forefathers, because you are your forefathers through the spiritual reality. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. All right. Okay, so let's just go back to the first electric company, or the first electricity in North America. The history of energy in the United States. This is nationalgrid.com. These days, our energy can come from so many different sources. From the fossil fuels we're looking to reduce our use of in order to achieve net zero emissions, to the greener, cleaner, renewable energy sources like solar and wind. And we know that Satan is the prince of the power of the air. But where did the history of energy first begin? In some ways, we've come full circle, of course. As some of the first energy sources were the sun and the wind. And here we are again looking to those, albeit in more technologically advanced ways. So the first source of energy in the US. Technically, the first source of energy was the sun, as it provided heat and light during the day. However, in the US, wood was the first real source of energy consumption in 1775 until the use of coal came about in the 1850s. And who was it that taught man the use of fire? I can't think of his name right now, but the discovery of electricity. The Industrial Revolution kick-started our use of human-generated electricity. Most people credit Benjamin Franklin with discovering electricity in 1752, which he did by realizing the sparks emitted from lightning strikes could generate power. Electricity in the Big Apple. Of course, the Big Apple. Don't bite that apple. Okay. 1882, Thomas Edison constructed Pearl Street Station, the first purpose-built power station built in New York City. This station provided the first electric light to Wall Street financiers and the New York Times. Ground zero. So the station burnt down in 1890, but was the model for stations that began popping up around the city. Today, the Edison Electric Illuminating Company survives in the form of Con Edison, con artists. Okay. Powering another Apple. In the late 19th century, hydropower was used as an electricity source. And in 1882, the same year Edison's power station, the world's first hydroelectric plant, went online in Appleton, Wisconsin. Wisconsin. Okay. The U.S.'s first electric transmission line. The first electric transmission line in the U.S. was constructed in 1889 between the generating station of Willamette Falls in Oregon City, Oregon, and downtown Portland, Oregon. The line transmitted electricity over a 13-mile span, which is very small in comparison to today's standards, but was considered a major technological breakthrough at the time. Transportation in the U.S. Horse-drawn carriages were used for transportation until the horseless carriage was created in the early 1800s, which only those wealthy enough could afford. That is until the early 1900s, when Henry Ford began mass production of the gas-powered Model T, which allowed the everyday person to purchase a vehicle. As time went on, cars in the U.S. grew larger and heavier, and by 1970, the average car was getting 13.5 miles per gallon MPG back then, which really isn't that long ago. Gas cost less than 25 cents. Today, people are not only driving gas-fueled vehicles, but electric ones as well. And if that wasn't enough, the U.S. has a new federal requirement that by 2026, all light-duty vehicles sold in the U.S. will need to average 49 mpg. That's 35.5 mpg more than vehicles just 50 years ago. Development of the U.S. gas industry. The U.S., along with Russia, led the way in the oil industry throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. In 1855, George Henry Bissell and a group of investors formed the Pennsylvania Rock Oil Company, later renamed Seneca Oil Company, as they looked for a more efficient replacement for asphalt-based kerosene. They then hired Edwin Drake, and on August 27th of 1859, he completed the first drilled oil well, which is seen as the beginning of the modern oil era, at Oil Creek near Titusville, Pennsylvania. And we know who Titus is. Titus tore down the temple in 70 AD. Okay. A little over a decade later, the Seneca Oil Company was overshadowed by John D. Rockefeller's Standard Oil Company, which controlled almost 80% of the oil products market. As electricity was introduced in 1882, natural gas was no longer needed to light homes, causing the industry to shift to heating and cooking. Renewable energy and the future. 2019 heralded a milestone when, after years of relying on coal for energy, more energy was generated from zero carbon sources than fossil fuels for the first time in both the UK and US. By using renewables to power our energy, we're well on our way to meeting our 2050 US target for net zero total emissions. Okay. Now, what is gas used for cars and homes? So what is natural gas? Natural gas is used for a variety of purposes in homes across the country. While electricity remains the most used energy source in homes, natural gas is right behind. Gas is also used for electricity generation, which means it's indirectly used by homes in this way as well. That said, the primary use of natural gas is in systems and appliances that have been specifically designed to run on this type of fuel. While there are several forms of this multi-purpose energy source, the most common are compressed natural gas, CNG, and liquefied natural gas, LNG, the latter of which is used more for transport than in homes. Some of the most common uses for natural gas in homes include heating and cooling air, providing gas for ranges, stoves and ovens, fireplaces, laundry dryers, barbecue grills, and fire pits. What uses the most gas in a house? According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, or EIA, the majority of natural gas used in homes is for space heating, which includes both air and water. But whether homes use natural gas or not depends on the type of water heater and central heating system it has. These factors are based at least partially on geography. Places with a lot of exposure to the sun can take advantage of solar-powered water heaters, and places in warm weather climates may not have central heating. In locations with warmer conditions, homes will typically see less natural gas consumption for water heating and central heating, and more natural gas usage for things like gas stoves or outdoor fireplaces. Furthermore, factors such as home size and construction materials affect both the amount of gas used and the way in which it is used. So, does heat use gas? Yes, heat uses natural gas in most instances, at least in the United States. The percentage of American homes that use gas for heating is over 50%. With electricity providing 37% of homes with heat. Other options for heating homes include electric space heaters and propane heating, though propane is less common. So now we're at the Strickland propane, okay? Yosemite Sam. Some electric power is generated using natural gas, so even in an indirect way, electric space heaters can still run on gas as a base source of energy. Does converting to natural gas add value to your home? Can natural gas appliances run on propane? Natural gas precautions and hazards. Natural gas has a better safety record than other major forms of energy, but its use still requires caution. Potential hazards can include explosions, large fires, and the risk of suffocation, either from smoke inhalation or carbon monoxide poisoning that can result from improperly burned gas. Fortunately, natural gas cannot burn or explode on its own. It requires specific conditions and a source to ignite combustion. Okay. Good. Oh, Lord, where's my notes? Where's my notes? Okay, so back to the petrified trees. Now, this is something that I saw in a vision. What, 2022, I believe? Yes, 2022. I think it was April 2022. Petrified tree that produces amber. So amber fossilized tree resin, not sap. Researchers think most of this gemstone likely comes from conifers or evergreen trees that bear cones. This is the snexplorers.org, Science News Explorers.org. A small lump of amber dug up in Southeast Asia may have come from a previously unknown type of ancient tree That's what a Swedish teen concluded after analyzing the fossilized tree resin. Her discovery may shed new light on ecosystems that existed millions of years ago. Many fossils or traces of ancient life look like dull rocks. That's because they're typically made of minerals that gradually replace the structure of the ancient organism. But amber often gleams with a warm golden glow. That's because it started out as a yellowish blob of sticky resin inside a tree. Then, when the tree fell and got buried, it spent millions of years being heated up under pressure deep within Earth's crust. There, the resin's carbon-bearing molecules bonded to each other to form a natural polymer. Polymers are long, chain-like molecules that include repeating groups of atoms. Besides amber, other natural polymers include rubber and cellulose, a major component of wood. And we know that rubber comes from the trees of Tyre, the rubber trees or gum trees of America. Okay. So the pine trees in the Bible. Oh no, we're the pine trees. I think it's the 14 trees of the book of Enoch. 14 trees. Okay. The 14 evergreen trees defined in the book of Enoch. The aquafoliaceae tree, aquafoliaceae. Let's see. Now, before we get into the thick of it, let's address the elephant in the room. The book of Enoch isn't exactly your everyday scripture. You won't find it in Catholic or most Protestant Bibles. However, it's a canon scripture in the Ethiopian Christian Bible, and fragments of the text were unearthed in the Dead Sea Scrolls or the Salt Sea Scrolls. Whether you see it as divinely inspired or an ancient text of wisdom, it's undeniably intriguing. If your interest is piqued, you can check out a full translation by Professor Michael A. Knibb, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so contemplate and see how all the trees appeared withered and all their leaves are stripped, with the exception of the 14 trees which are not stripped, which remain with the old leaves until the new come after 2 or 3 years. Enoch 3:1. Here's the interesting part. Wikipedia lists exactly 14 tree families as evergreen. There's an evergreen plaza, 95th Street in Chicago. Okay. Coincidence or knowledge way ahead of its time? Remember, many scholars think the book of Enoch was penned in the 2nd century BC. Could it be that those ancients knew a thing or two more than we give them credit for? The 14 evergreen tree families are the Aquafoliaceae, the Araucaria, Cariacea. I do not know how to say these words. Let's see. The holly tree. Okay, that's the Aquafoliaceae, whatever. The holly tree, the monkey puzzle trees, spiral arrangement of branches, scale-like leaves. These trees are not just a visual marvel, they're living relics with some species dating back to the Mesozoic area. They're commonly found in South America and Australia, where they play a vital role in their ecosystems. The agathis or kari trees, the Maori. Now, all of these trees are in America, North America. Of course, the gumball tree It says the palms have long been symbols of victory, peace, and eternal life. Their leaves are used in various spiritual and ritualistic practices across cultures, signifying triumph and enlightenment. In tarot, the Ace of Cups, often depicted with the palm, represents emotional and spiritual abundance, highlighting the tree's deep spiritual significance. The coconut tree, with its ability to thrive in sandy soils and provide life-sustaining resources, is seen as a symbol of resilience, self-sufficiency, and prosperity in many spiritual traditions. So the coconut tree is revered as the tree of life. Okay, now I know why my son gave me this prime hydration drink. It's a coconut water drink. Let's see, the Caribbean and tropical regions, of course, Florida. So we have the palms, coniferous trees and shrubs. The giant redwoods of California are some of the largest trees in the world. Ornamental gardening and timber industries. Okay, so members of the Cupressia or the Cypressia family, the cypress, the juniper, the redwood or sequoia, thuja, and cryptomeria, cedar. What else? Okay, so we get it. 14 trees that are seen as eternal or evergreen. Now, what is a petrified tree? So petrified wood, also known as petrified tree, from ancient Greek, meaning rock or stone, literally wood turned into stone, is the name given to a special type of fossilized wood. The fossilized remains of terrestrial vegetation. Petrification is the result of a tree or tree-like plant having been replaced by stone via a mineralization process that often includes permineralization and replacement. The organic materials making up cell walls have been replicated with minerals, mostly silica in the form of opal, chalcedony, or quartz. In some instances, the original structure of the stem tissue may be partially retained. Unlike other plant fossils, which are typically impressions or compressions, petrified wood is a three-dimensional representation of the original organic material. The petrification process occurs underground. 8:08 on the clock, 62%, 888. When wood becomes buried in water or volcanic ash. Asherah pose. Okay. Now, the presence of water reduces the availability of oxygen, which inhibits aerobic decomposition by bacteria and fungi. Mineral-laden water flowing through the sediments may lead to permineralization, which occurs when minerals precipitate out of solution, filling the interiors of cells and other empty spaces. During replacement, the plant's cell walls act as a template for mineralization. There needs to be a balance between the decay of cellulose and lignin and mineral templating for cellular detail to be preserved with fidelity. Most of the organic matter often decomposes. However, some of the lignin may remain. Silica in the form of opal A can encrust and permeate wood relatively quickly in hot spring environments. Yellowstone. However, petrified wood is most commonly associated with trees that were buried in fine-grained settlements of deltas and floodplains or volcanic lahars or ayahars and ash beds. A forest where such material has petrified becomes known as a petrified forest. Deltas, I think of the Mississippi Delta, floodplains, Mississippi, Memphis, Egypt, okay? The Mediterranean. Formation. Petrified wood forms when woody stems of plants are buried in wet sediments saturated with dissolved minerals. The lack of oxygen slows decay of the wood, allowing minerals to replace cell walls and to fill void spaces in the wood. Wood is composed mostly of hollow cellulose, cellulose and hemicellulose, and lignin. Together, these substances make up 95% of the dry composition of wood. Almost half of this is cellulose, which gives wood much of its strength. Cellulose is composed of long chains of polymerized glucose arranged into microfibrils that reinforce the cell walls in the wood. Hemicellulose, a branched polymer of various simple sugars, makes up the majority of the remaining composition of hardwood, while lignin, which is a polymer of phenylpropanes, is more abundant in softwood. The hemicellulose and lignin encrust and reinforce the cellulose microfibrils. Dead wood is normally rapidly decomposed by microorganisms, beginning with the hollow cellulose. The lignin is hydrophobic or water repelling and much slower to decay. The rate of decay is affected by temperature and moisture content, but exclusion of oxygen is the most important factor preserving wood tissue. Organisms that decompose lignin must have oxygen for their life processes. As a result, fossil wood older than Eocene, about 56 million years old or older, has lost almost all its hollow cellulose and only lignin remains. In addition to microbial decomposition, wood buried in an alkaline environment is rapidly broken down by inorganic reactions with the alkali. Wood is preserved from decomposition by rapid entombment in mud. Mud Island, Memphis, Tennessee, Muddy Mine, Muddy Waters, the blues singer. Particularly mud formed from volcanic ash. The wood is then mineralized to transform it to stone. Non-mineralized wood has been recovered from Paleozoic formations, particularly calyxylon from Berea sandstone, but this is very unusual. The petrified wood is later exposed by erosion of surrounding sediments. Non-mineralized fossil wood is rapidly destroyed when exposed by erosion, but petrified wood is quite durable. So I'm getting wood from Noah's flood, is what I'm hearing. Some 40 minerals have been identified in petrified wood, but silica minerals are by far the most important. Calcite and pyrite are much less common, and others are quite rare. Silica binds to the cellulose and cell walls via hydrogen bonding and forms a kind of template. Additional silica then replaces the cellulose as it decomposes, so that cell walls are often preserved in great detail. This silicification begins within the cell walls, and the spaces within and between cells are filled with silica more gradually. Over time, almost all the original organic material is lost. Only around 10% remains in the petrified wood. The remaining material is nearly pure silica with only iron, aluminum, and alkali and alkaline earth elements present in more than trace amounts. Iron, calcium, aluminum are the most common, and one or more of these elements may make up more than 1% of the composition. Just what form the silica initially takes is still a topic of research, There is evidence of initial deposition as opal, which then recrystallizes to quartz over long time periods. On the other hand, there is some evidence that silica is deposited directly as quartz crystal. Okay, so let's see. Opal in the Bible. Exodus 39 and 12. And the third row, an opal, an agate, and an amethyst. Quartz crystal in the Bible.
According to All Crystal, the Bible mentions several types of crystals throughout its pages. In Exodus chapter 28 verses 17 to 20, God instructs Moses to make a breastplate for Aaron that contains 12 stones representing the 12 tribes of Israel. These stones are various types of quartz.
Okay, so they're all quartz. Okay, I found some quartz crystals in Calumet Park. Pink quartz with silver on them. Never seen these types of rocks, and I've been in that city for years. And I also found a seashell. Very ironic. Anywho. Okay, so now I think that's enough of that. You guys get the gist of it? Let's see. Instant petrification. Examples of quick petrification. This is elkcreekresort.net. How long does it take to petrify wood? Not long, though there is a widespread idea that it takes millions of years to create fossils and petrify wood. Examples of quick petrification and fossilization abound. Mount Tarawera's eruption in New Zealand in 1886 covered 2 Maori villages, and I believe one of the girls in the TV show, The 100, her name was Maori, or what's the name of that? Emery, something like that. Yeah. With excavations have come many examples of petrified objects, hats, hams, bags of flowers, and other things. In fact, there are records of almost instant petrification prior to the eruption because of some of the natural wonders of the world located there, the white terraces. These terraces of silica-coated steps had pools of varying temperatures into which insects, trash, and other items purposefully or accidentally were plunged, causing many tourists to go home with petrified artifacts that had happened virtually under their eyes. It's the circumstances that cause petrification, not the time. Source: Answers in Genesis. Australia has several examples of quick petrification, from the water wheel at Cape Leeuwin to fossil fence wire, shown to be a brand popularly bought between 1920 to 1970, to family fence posts being petrified in swampy land. Also, wood encased in basalt dates conflictingly with the rock around it. Scientists have long been working on creating instant petrified wood. These woods are extremely useful for weatherproofing, insect proofing, and creating sturdier structures. Polystrate trees, like those in the coal regions of Kentucky, show evidence of rapid deposition of fossils. This link also includes a picture of a miner's hat abandoned in a mine and completely petrified, obviously done during recorded history. From the other side of the world comes a report of the chapel of Santa Maria of Health, Santa Maria de Salute, built in 1630 in Venice, Italy, to celebrate the end of the plague. Because Venice is built on water-saturated clay and sand, the chapel was constructed on 180,000 wooden pilings to reinforce the foundations. Even though the chapel is a massive stone block structure, it has remained firm since its construction. How have the wooden pilings lasted over 360 years? 36 Mafia. They have petrified. The chapel now rests on stone pilings from wood to stone. Oh my God. I just took a picture earlier at the Pullman, where they first built the train station up here. And it said from wood to steel. Okay. Anyway, we'll get back to that. Primer on the fossil record. Petrified fence post from Washington State. Study finds naturally occurring petrification of wood pieces from 7 to 36 years. Primer on the fossil record. What does the fossil record say about the date of Earth? What about radiometric carbon-14 dating? Radiometric dating supports the biblical account of a young Earth. Okay. Now, witches and petrification. Rituals, or what do you call it? Spells. One second. I don't want to read all of this. Let me see. Come now. Riverdale. All righty then. Hurry now. Any day now. All right. Yeah, I want to play games. The Devil Within. Cersei. Craig Cersei. Oh, y'all know y'all finna get it. Petrifying pop-ups. Power of the 4 elements. Is it possible that petrification, turning people into stone, black magic, was practiced in medieval times, and that is one of the reasons? Okay, this is a Quora.com article or question. It says, is it possible that petrification, or turning people into stone, black magic, was practiced in medieval times, and that is one of the reasons of the interest in mineral alchemy and in turning materials into gold? Now, my cousin Brenda, Pete, when I was in Atlanta, said that she saw a man petrified in a basement. I don't know, was I supposed to forget that? Or maybe I heard your thoughts. I don't know. Either way. So somebody's been dibbling and dabbling in magic in the family. So, and of course, she was dealing with an African man. Now, there is no evidence to suggest that petrification, black magic, as depicted in mythological stories, was ever practiced in medieval times. The idea of turning people into stone is purely a myth and is not based on any real scientific or historical practices. Of course, the demon witches don't want you to know what they're doing. Alchemy, on the other hand, was practiced during the medieval period, and some alchemists did seek to turn base metals into gold. However, this was not related to any interest in petrification or turning people into stone. Rather, it was based on the belief that all matter was composed of the same basic elements and that through various chemical processes, it was possible to transform one element into another. While alchemy was not successful in turning base metals into gold, it did contribute to the development of modern chemistry and the understanding of the nature of matter. Now, there's the bus station or system in Atlanta is called MATA, I think, and so is the one in Memphis. Okay, MATA or atom backwards. Okay, inversions. Okay, now Medusa, of course. What is the spell that witches use to turn people into stone? Petrification spell. This is Charmed fandom. Charmed, the witches show. Okay. The petrification spell is a spell written by Phoebe Halliwell to turn someone's flesh into stone by calling on Medusa's bones. Hello? Anybody out there? Bakara, a warlock from the future, came to visit Cole Turner, informing him that Phoebe would die if she kept saving her current boyfriend, Miles. However, Bakara's true intention was to steal the Book of Shadows and kill the Charmed Ones. When he finally came to confront the sisters with his past self, the sisters were powerless because Bakara had disempowered them. Phoebe still tried to stop them by this spell that she had created. However, since she was powerless, the spell had no effect. By the use of Latin spells, the two Bakaras summoned fireballs into their hand and killed Phoebe and Paige. Their older sister, Piper, was rescued by her husband, Leo Wyatt, and together found a solution to save her sisters. We call upon Medusa's bones, turn their flesh into stone. Now, petrification. Effects turns victims to stone, trigger victim and user stare at each other. The alignment is neutral, category offensive power. Petrification is the ability to turn other beings to stone with a single look. The effects can be simulated with a spell or potion. When using this power, some users' eyes turn white. This power needs to be consciously activated. To make it effective, the victim and user need to be in direct eye contact. By averting looking into the user's eyes or using sunglasses would be effective to protect oneself from being petrified, i.e. the, what is the TV show there? Among Us. where the guy has the glasses and he can see the aliens or the lizard people. There are known ways to reverse the effects. One such example would be to sprinkle fairy dust, leprechaun's luck, and a potion on the victim before hitting them with an axe. History. This power was first seen used by the Titan Meta. She channeled her power through her eyes to petrify 3 white lighters so that the Titans could steal the power of orbing to enter the heavens. Her power only worked when the target looked directly into her eyes. Chris avoided her power by wearing tinted sunglasses, my blue blockers. Upon his arrival, Chris claimed that some of the ancient Greek statues in museums are really victims of petrification. Phoebe Halliwell managed to reverse petrification by using a combination of a fairy's dust, a leprechaun's luck, a witch's potion, and a dwarf's axe to free a petrified page. While fighting her sisters, Amelia Desmots, Andy Truder, Daryl Morris, and Henry Mitchell, Prue turns Henry to stone with her gaze. The magic is reversed when Piper killed Prue. Okay, so just a little bit of here, a little bit of there, a little bit line upon line, precept upon precept, and things and whatnot. Okay. Now the Baphomet of Calumet. What is the etymology of Calumet? A North American Indian peace pipe. Latin, calamus. Late Latin, calumelus, or little reed. Late 17th century, from French, from late Latin, calumelus, little reed, diminutive of Latin calamus, referring to the pipe's reed stem. Now we're back to the stem program, okay? A highly ornamented ceremonial pipe of the American Indians. Okay. So from a Norman variant of Old English, Calumet, imported to Canada with Norman colonists, from Latin calumelus, calumos, a clay tobacco pipe used by Native Americans, especially as a symbol of truce or peace. Okay. So entries linking to Calumet, medieval oboe-like instrument, late 14th century, Chalamis or Chalamise, Chalmel, from Old French Chalami, Chalmel, from late Latin calamus, literally a small reed. Reed, grass stalk, often metaphoric of objects made of reed. Flute of reed, fishing rod, reed pin, etc. The Greek word is kolmo, grass reed. Source also of Old English helm, H-E-A-L-M. Old High German halm, H-A-L-M, or straw. Latin culmus, stalk. Now, it said that the amber draws the straw. So now we know that okay, we putting the pieces together. The amber stone draws the wheat or the tares. All right. Russian Saloma, Psalms, Latvian, Salns. Kalam, Arabic, Qalam, are said to be beeks, Beekes, to have been borrowed from the Greek word, mistaken as a plural and trimmed of its s, ending from mid-15th century, perhaps also influenced along the way by Old French muse as the name of a wind instrument. Shalmuse, shamist, sham, also was used as a verb circa 1500 of ducks, to honk, make a noise. Oh shit, the trumpet. Ooh, y'all in trouble. Sin City, Great Falls, Montana, Baghdad, bombs over Baghdad, Chirac, pipe it up. Old English pipe, simple tubular musical wind instrument, also tube for conveying water. Peace, freedom from civil disorder. Conceit, a thought, a notion, that which is mentally conceived. Tradition, belief or practice handed down from generation to generation, generational curses. Quality of being equal or fair, impartiality. A journey, a defined course of traveling one's path in life. Philosophy, 1300, knowledge, learning, scholarship, scholarly works. And penthouse, 1300, pentis, pendize, a shed or sloping roof projecting from a main wall. Oh, Pent slope, English house. The meaning at that time was attached building with a sloping roof or awning. Originally a simple structure, Middle English homilies describe the stable where Jesus was born as a penthouse, meaning apartment or small house built on the roof of a skyscraper, is attested by 1921, from which time dates its association with luxury. Okay. Penthouse of the hospital. You say, what the fuck is a penthouse in a hospital? The internet is hilarious. It says it's where the patients with that good insurance go. Stop being logical. Okay. Mount Elizabeth Hospital, penthouse, ward. Okay. Blue Island Hospital, penthouse. Yeah, I shut that hospital down for playing with my babies. Y'all like cutting people open for no reason, taking out eggs, stealing sperm, stealing blood, and all kind of everything else. And you must pay for everything that you have taken. Okay? Everything comes with a price. Okay? And the blood is the life. And for every blood cell, every drip drop that you have removed, you will pay for. And so will your children, and your children's children, and your children's 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 children. There is no more repentance. Okay? You three unclean demons, beasts from the sea. All right, so we get it. We get it. What is a Baphomet of Calumet? So, okay. What is the Native American devil? The Wendigo. Okay. Do Native Americans summon the devil with a pipe? The trickster god, this being has different names and different manifestations in each tribe, but almost every tribe has a trickster tradition of some sort. I said earlier, tricks are for kids, okay? Silly rabbits. For some tribes, there was a coyote, a god or creature of chaos, a trickster and troublemaker. For the Navajos, there are skinwalkers, which are evil beings, both spiritual and with human counterparts, beings, people that prey on souls, especially of the recently departed, and can cause trouble for the living as well. Now, my family and their cohorts, the heathens, chose to try to take me out and use a Wendigo to do it. He bit me. But that's okay because I'm a healer and I heal up nicely. Okay. So, okay, they prey on souls. Now, in a location, there is a building. It says, it looks like soul recycling is what the building looks like. It says, and it has the little recycle symbol on it. Like, the devil can't hide himself because he likes to be seen. So you can't hide and want to be seen at the same time. You have to pick a struggle, okay? So either, people want to be rich, but then they want to have secret societies and hide. You can't hide from God, okay? It's inevitable that you will face this judgment that is come upon you. Okay? Now, for the Cherokee, there are Asgina is what it looks like. Asgina, Asgina, whatever. Asgina, Uyaga, and Noon we, as in legion. We are many. An evil spirit monster who preys on humans, and the Kelowna Iliski, the raven mocker, which are spirits that preyed on the souls of the dying and would torment their victims until they died, after which they would eat the heart of the victim. For the Cree, the Wisakachak, or Wissaket Jack, with Wesig Kushak, trickster and deceiver. For the Huron Wendat, there are Sayu Wayronks, the trickster, the Algonquin trickster, the Locks. So that gives me the Lux, the Grand Lux. For Micmac, Passamaquoddy, and Penobscot tribes, there was the Gluskap, or literally the liar, a giant deity of evil. For the Lakota Sioux, or Sox, and other plains tribes, there was the Iktomi trickster, a spider being and slider-like human who is sly and cunning and deceives. That's the eight-legged freak. I have 845 at 81%. Okay. For Blackfoot, there is the Sta'al, or the whatever, which are believed to be a type of ghost, specifically the ghost of cruel men and women. These Sta'a are said to hang around camps. They are believed to cause bad luck and harm to living people, especially in the morning. Okay, Michelin Techuli, the closest developed idea of an arduous afterlife in the Americas, not necessarily one of pain and torment, governed by the Lord of Souls and the underworld. It's similar to ancient Egyptians' halls of the dead, without an ascension after judgment. I think the idea of eternal, quote unquote, damnation and quote unquote original sin simply don't exist among most indigenous peoples in the Americas. Hence, no need for quote unquote salvation or the practice of deferred divine judgment after life. There is no forgive the sinner, his fate is in God's hands type of thinking in pre-colonial days. There is a nearly universal concept of instant karma, however. Justice for crimes and bad behaviors was swift and immediate, but most often survivable. Otherwise, why bother intervening at all? If you were murderous or really destructive, eventually your enemies would catch up to you and have at it until you were eradicated. The idea of soul and redemption aren't part of most known indigenous American cosmologies because most do not conceive of an afterlife, but they do exist, especially among indigenous peoples throughout the rest of the world, notably in Asia. An underworld as a place where souls go to rest is not usually a place of damnation and consequently negates the need for a privileged heaven. If you look into indigenous cosmologies, you will also read of reincarnation and an almost Tolkien-like procession into a collective misty mountain exodus where all generations are reunited in some unknown dimension beyond life and death, referred to as enumerated worlds, sixth, fifth, etc., depending on the culture. Okay. Now, back to the Baphomet. Oh, there's also the Indians' Devil's Tower, or the Indians call the Devil's Tower the Bear's Teepee or Bear Lodge because so many bears live there. And that is the the National Park, Wyoming, National Monument in Wyoming. Yahweh. Yeah. Yahweh. Before they added the H, I wrote it down somewhere. Why? Let me say why? Tell them that it's human nature. Why? You do that way. Why? Tell them that it's human nature. How y'all liking this judgment so far? Is it hot enough yet? Is you feeling the fire yet? Either way. Okay, so Y backwards. We have WHY or YHW. Give me 1 second. Let me close these doors where the bugs try to come in. Alrighty. Oh, the devil calling. Go on, devil. Go on now. All right. Now, again, yesterday I was starting to talk about The Shining, the movie. Made me think about Beyonce. Shining, 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 yeah. All of this winning, I've been losing my mind. So, in the final scene of The Shining, 1980, when the camera zooms in on a photo, Jack Torrance can be seen in the Baphomet pose that was used in religious satanic statues. Okay. So the Baphomet, or the devil with titties, okay, invented pagan or Gnostic idol or deity that the Templars were accused of worshiping, and that was later embraced by various occult and mystical writers. The first known mention of Baphomet was in a letter written in 1098 by Anselm, Nightmare on Elm Street. Snake. Guess who's playing Freddy? Coming in like Freddy. And you know the chick is your daddy. Anselm stated that the Turks called loudly upon Baphomet, a guy named Turk from Danville. Most scholars believe that the name is an alteration of Mahomet, or Muhammad, the founder of Islam. Now we're getting somewhere. Man, revenge is sweet, isn't it? In 1307, Philip IV of France had every Templar in France arrested, accusing them of such heretical acts as idolatrous worship of a bearded male head called Baphomet. By the 19th century, Freemasons had also been falsely said to quote unquote, said to worship the Baphomet. In the book Dogma et Ritual de la Haute Magi, 1854 through 56, The Doctrine and Ritual of High Magic, the influential French occultist Eliphas Levi created the Baphomet that has become a recognized occult icon. The book's frontispiece was a drawing of Baphomet imagined as a Sabbatic goat, a hermaphroditic winged human figure with the head and feet of a goat that is adorned with numerous esoteric symbols. Levi describes the meaning of each element of the drawing, which is defined by its profound and pervasive duality. British occultist Aleister Crowley also adopted Baphomet, notably in his Gnostic Mass. More recently, the Satanic Temple commissioned Temple commissioned a statue of Baphomet, which was unveiled in 2015 to 15, the date of so-called Mr. Odarian Danish, Mr. Yeshua, and then moved to various places as a protest against displays of Ten Commandments monuments in public places. Now, what does the Bible say about setting up Asherah poles next to God's altars? Deuteronomy 16 and 21. Thou shalt not plant thee a grove of any trees near unto the altar of the Lord thy God, which thou shalt make thee. You shall not plant for yourself any tree as a wooden image near the altar which you build for yourself to the Lord your God. You shall not plant for yourself an Asherah of any kind of tree beside the altar of the Lord your God, which you shall make for yourself. How long is it on? 2 hours, that's it. Okay. What's this say? Calumet City and going to the same school in an interview. $88 on the percentage. Nope, we're not gonna worry about that. Okay, so we got Calumet Park, Calumet City, Calumet River. So the Baphomet is a deity which the Knights Templar were accused of worshiping. Now we're in the Wikipedia. I know some of this stuff is going to be repetitive, but got to get it out. So, subsequently became incorporated into various occult and Western esoteric traditions. The name Baphomet appeared in trial transcriptions for the Inquisition of the Knights Templar starting in 1307. It first came into popular English usage in the 19th century during debate and speculation on the reasons for the suppression of the Templar order. Baphomet is a symbol of balance in various occult and mystical traditions, the origin of which some occultists have attempted to link with the Gnostics and Templars, although occasionally purported to be a deity or a demon. Now, I met a guy in Atlanta. Of course, this is Sodom and Gomorrah, claimed to be a Hebrew Israelite, and it turned out to be the Baphomet. Was he a man? Was he a woman? Was he both? What was he? The devil. So, since 1856, the name Baphomet has been associated with the sabbatic goat image drawn by Eliphas Levi, composed of binary elements representing the symbolization of the equilibrium of opposites, half human and half animal, male and female, and good and evil. Levi's intention was to symbolize his concept of balance, with Baphomet representing the goal of perfect social order. So here we have the imbalanced balance, or the unbalanced Libras, the unbalanced or lawless lawgivers, those who should keep the law but didn't. They gave up their rightful places for fortune and fame. Okay, so The history. The name Baphomet appeared in July 1098 in a letter about the siege of Antioch by the French crusader Anselm of Ribemont. As the next day dawned, they, the inhabitants of Antioch, called loudly upon Baphomet, crystal meth, and we prayed silently in our hearts to God. Then we attacked and forced all of them outside the city walls. 9 o'clock. Raymond of Aguilers, a chronicler of the First Crusade, reports that the troubadours used the term Baphomet for Muhammad and Baphomaria for a mosque. The name Baphomet later appeared around 1195 in the provincial poems Senhores per los Notres Pecats by the troubadour Gavaldin. Around 1250, a provincial poem by Osthorpe de Arlharp, bewailing the defeat of the Seventh Crusade, again uses the name Baphomet for Muhammad. The Baphomet is also the title of one of 4 surviving chapters of an Occitan translation of Ramon Lull's earliest known work, the Liber de la Doctrina Peril. Baphomet was allegedly worshipped as a deity by the medieval order of the Knights Templar. King Philip IV of France had many French Templars simultaneously arrested and then tortured into confessions in October 1307. Again, the Libras, the time of justice. The name Baphomet appeared in trial transcripts for the Inquisition of the Knights Templar that same year. Over 100 different charges had been leveled against the Templars, including heresy, homosexual relations, spitting and urinating on the cross, and sodomy. I also have a note for pederasty and church, Israelites, Hebrews, and Muslims, ritualistic abuse of underage people, especially boys. Something about Superhead, the Presleys, the Furs, P. Diddy, Andre Harrell, Riverdale, Lucci, Uncle Sam, Blue Eyed Damon Baby, Birds, something about, what did it say? Ritualized sodomy. Okay, so most of them were dubious, as they were the same charges that were leveled against the Cathars, Carthaginians, and many of King Philip's enemies. He had earlier kidnapped Pope Boniface the 13th and charged him, that's the 8th, and charged him with nearly identical offenses. Yet Malcolm Barber observed that historians find it difficult to accept that an affair of such enormity rests upon total fabrication. The Chinon parchment suggests that the Templars did indeed spit on the cross, says Sean Martin, and that these acts were intended to simulate the kind of humiliation and torture that a crusader might be subjected to if captured by the Saracens, where they were taught how to commit apostasy with the mind only and not with the heart. And this guy, he actually spat on my wall, which is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, you're going to get that up? You're going to get that? Are you okay? Similarly, Michael Hogg suggests that the simulated worship of Baphomet did indeed form part of a Templar initiation rite. The indictment, the accusation published by the court of Rome, set forth that in all the provinces they had idols, that is to say, heads. Mind you, when I first got here where I am as my cousins, there was a bull head, Chicago Bulls head, right outside the back door, and it actually fell over and broke. And one of the eyes actually broke off. I think it was the left eye, if I'm not mistaken. And there is also a head well, that's not really a head. That's more of a bust of what's his name from Star Wars, the Dark Lord. Yeah. But anyway, so it says that they had idols or heads, some of which had 3 faces, others just one. Sometimes it was a human skull. That in their assemblies and especially in their grand chapters, they worshiped the idol as a god. Mind you, when this head fell over and broke, my cousin was like, yeah, let me put that up here in the front, and just sat it there like, I'm like, what you gonna do with that? 9:05 on the clock. That in their assemblies and especially in their grand chapters, they worshiped the idol as a god, as their savior, saying that this head could save them, that it bestowed on the order all its wealth, made the trees flower and the plants of the earth to sprout forth. That is Jules Michelet of History of France, 1860. The name Baphomet comes up in several of these dubious confessions. Peter Partner states in his 1987 book, The Knights Templar and Their Myth, in the trial of the Templars, one of their main charges was their supposed worship of a heathen idol head known as a Baphomet. A Baphomet equals the Mahomet. Maho. The mama ho that meant, I don't know. The description of the object changed from confession to confession. Some Templars denied any knowledge of it, while others who confessed under torture described it as being either a severed head, a cat, or a head with 3 faces. The Templars did possess several silver gilt heads as reliquaries, including one marked Capud LB 3M. Another said to be Saint Euphemia, and possibly the actual head of Hughes the Payans. Mind you, I said that there's a church up the street where the stained glass window of quote unquote Jesus is completely missing the head. Very strange thing I've seen. I've never seen anything of the sort. The claims of an idol named Baphomet were unique to the Inquisition of the Templars. Mind you, the guy that I met in Atlanta said that he was previously a Rosicrucian. I guess I was supposed to just let that go and not look into it, but yeah. Okay, and he was also a Marine. So I've been being gang stalked by the military and the government. 2:14 on the clock. Got the Cupid and anti-Cupid. Love versus hate. Good versus evil. Okay. So Karen Rawls, author of the Knights Templar Encyclopedia, argues that it is significant that no specific evidence of Baphomet appears in either the Templar rule or in other medieval period Templar documents. Mind you, Mr. Danish, Dirty Dan, looks just like Malcolm X. And he kept saying, my name is Jamal. 2:15 on the clock. It's supposed to be his birthday. Mr. Gollum. Okay. Alrighty. Yeah, that's why I did my little dance in front of the little Muslim center. Y'all, who y'all scaring? Nobody. Nobody. You can't even see, you running around in the dark doing shit, but you can't even say nothing. Y'all feeling some type of way? Say it to my face. It ain't nobody but little old me. $1.30, buck trade 5 if you want, give or take. Y'all scared? Oh, y'all must see them angels behind me. Right, stop playing with me. So, Karen Rawls, author of the Knights Templar Encyclopedia, argues that it is significant that no specific evidence of Baphomet appears in either the Templar rule or in other medieval period Templar documents. Gasserin de Montfaucon, a knight of Provence, said that their superior showed him an idol made in the form of Baphomet. Another, named Raymond Ruby, described it as a wooden head on which the figure of Baphomet was painted, and adds that he worshipped it by kissing its feet and exclaiming, Yalla, Yalla, backwards would be Allah, or Allah, 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 or whatever, which is, he says, verbum Saracenorum, a word taken from the Saracens. A Templar of Florence, which is my supposed aunt's name, declared that in the secret chapters of the order, one brother said to the other, showing the idol, adore this head is your God and your Mahomet. Thomas Wright, The Worship of the Generative Powers, 1865. The name Baphomet came into popular English usage in the 19th century during debate and speculation on the reasons for the suppression of the Templars. Modern scholars agree that the name of Baphomet was an old French corruption of the name Mohammed. 911, towers fallen, Babylon fallen, with the interpretation being that some of the Templars, through their long military occupation of the Outremer, had begun incorporating Islamic ideas into their belief system, and that this was seen as and documented by the inquisitors as heresy. Alan de Merger, however, rejects the idea that the Templars could have adopted the doctrines of their enemies. Spirit is saying something about Farrakhan being Ahaz and adding the 15 years to his life when he almost died of cancer or something. When did Farrakhan almost die?
According to Wikipedia, in December 2013, Farrakhan announced that he had not appeared publicly for 2 months because he had suffered a heart attack in October.
Judgment. 2013. And that was the year that he confessed to believing in Jesus. Okay. This is 2024 minus 2013. 2024. That's 11 years. 3 more years would be what? 2027. Ahaz and Muslims. Ahab was the son and successor of King Omri and the husband of Jezebel of Sidon. Whilst the previous kings followed a heretical interpretation of Yahwism known as the sins of Jeroboam, Ahab institutionalized Baalism, which was completely divorced from Yahwism. Are Muslims descendants of Esau? Muhammad's uncle, or King Ahab, and his wife Jezebel. Who is Louis Farrakhan's wife?
Khadija Farrakhan. According to Wikipedia, Khadija Farrakhan, born Betsy Ross, is the wife of Louis Farrakhan, the supreme leader of the Nation of Islam. She is known as the First Lady of the Nation of Islam.
Hello, Miss Lady. Mr. Power. McChinny Chin Chin. Ooh, Judgment Day, Judgment Day. Mm-mm. You got a strong jawbone, don't you, sis? Look like Miss Pryor. Prior to this,
We're going to go on the air in about 3 minutes.
was Richard Pryor Muslim? Come on, man. I don't want to sign into nothing. Two on the live. Them fireworks is not gonna stop this incoming judgment.
Black people got the miles, Muslims, double Muslims. There's the one you don't f with them double Muslims. And wait to get to Allah. They want to take 8 and
Y'all like sacrificing folks, huh? Take yourself out, just sacrifice somebody else, huh? Who you gonna burn up? Who you gonna blow up? Blow the whistle. Blow the whistle. This shit is comical. But like my son say, it's funny. Now, I'm gonna leave y'all with that, and I'll be back tomorrow because I'm tired of talking. I'm gonna get my little notes together again, and I'll holler at y'all in the AM. Okay? Shalom to those who have peace. Fuck those that don't.